What's one thing that people should remember from today's conversation?
The realization of the opportunity that we're currently having in probably the next 5 years to create not just generational wealth potentially, but also to preserve wealth going forward is one of the key messages.
After today's conversation and say not crypto, but Bitcoin, you get rich slow scheme and you get wrecked quick scheme.
That is when shift happens.
Andrej Majcen, the co-founder and group CEO of Bitcoin Suisse,
Switzerland's crypto financial firm, guiding its growth since 2013.
into the country's largest custodian and a global staking leader.
What is Bitcoin Suisse? If you had to explain it to your mom.
Bitcoin Suisse is a financial institution that is focusing on crypto assets, primarily offering access to them, safeguarding them, and then offering a lot of additional services in turn.
Someone who is 25, 30, how should they view retirement?
First of all, don't bet for retirement in terms of the government will do magic asset management for you and you will have enough money that you will have a decent life when you retire. And second, start to take your own destiny into your own hands.
What's the main risk with Bitcoin today?
The original idea of Bitcoin is about decentralization. Large custodians or very dominant counterparties in the industry, all of them lead to some sort of centralization. If something major happens to any of those platforms, of course, that could lead to a major collapse as well. That will not just bring Bitcoin down, but also the whole industry.
If I live from paycheck to paycheck and I still manage to save some money that I want to invest, but my goal is to buy that house or that flat,
Yeah.
what do you recommend?
The biggest mistake you can do is to not.
Hi everyone, this is the little bit that I know none of you like that can help us make a huge difference for this show and we want to take it next. 71% of the people who regularly watch When Shift Happens have not subscribed. And so all I'd ask you, if you want to make a huge difference, is the following. If you've seen this show before and you like it, help me, help my team, hit the subscribe button and we'll continue to build this show for you. Thank you. Yes, so that's how we ended up in the studio today. Beautiful. After
Perfect.
a couple of months,
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Excellent. No complaint.
I was saying before that I was not, I'm probably not very liked in the business because I'm very critical, right?
Yeah.
And I'm very direct. And I mean, I have my vision, I know what I want, and I make the assumption that people know what I want, but I don't communicate it.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible manager, basically. So what I did, I took a COO who is amazing, very much better with people, social skills, and is able to sit down with them and be nice to them. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not nice. I'm just very direct.
Just wanted to say,
if something is good, if something is good, I'm like, this is awesome. If something is not good, I'm like, this is not good.
But you need to be direct as well. You cannot sweet talk everything. So
first, I mean, in companies, right, usually you have all this the manager role where you have to go and have a lunch for 1 hour talking about life and everything for the last 5 minutes to tell people, I'm not really happy with that. Right? I cannot do this. I cannot do this. It makes me crazy. Actually, the devil is in the detail for every business, right? I was talking about this 1% thing before. And so for me, it's how do we improve all the time? So it means it's never good enough. But as a founder, it's normal. It's never good. You need to be like that. But most people, I'm not sure they can really take it, or they think, this guy is an asshole. How do you deal with this? You built a much bigger company that we build with our podcast.
I mean, there is two things to it. So one thing is you should never be happy with the result. The moment you're happy with your own results, it's your last working day. You're completely obsolete by that time. So that's why you always need to aim for something more. You always need to improve. I think that's very important. The other one is, of course, you mentioned it, the social skill element of it. So dealing with people, especially larger organizations, it takes a lot of time as well. So you need to listen to people. You need to take care of them. Every person has different interests, different ambitions, different problems. So dealing with that is very time intense. But still, I think it's important in order to create a high performer team that you focus on those things, even though it's time consuming. How
good are you at that? Very self-critically.
I mean, very self-critically, I think I'm pretty good. But the thing is that, I'm not the smartest person in the firm or the most, I'm probably the most hardworking, but still I did in the past one thing pretty well, and that is hiring good people. So I always try to create a complementary team where people can help each other and actually contribute to one bigger target and bigger goal altogether as a team. So creating high performer teams was quite important for me all the time. But by now, of course, as the CEO of the group, as being less involved in operational business, I focus less on those kind of topics and try to focus more on strategy, growth, and so on. So yeah, you cannot do all at the same time.
Where does this very hardworking side of yours come from?
It's a good question. Probably goes back to my youth. So when I started my not really professional career, but I started working when I was like 14 to get some sort of money on the side when I was still in school. So that I worked for the company of a friend of mine, his mother actually. So we worked like in the warehouse, sorting different things around and so on. And that was the first kind of message of, yeah, that's how you actually earn money. So I never had to have like a bad feeling when I went to my mother and said, hey, I'm buying this, don't know, expensive jacket now or something. She was never able like to complain about that because I earned the money myself. And that continued then, of course. Then I worked like in a call center. When I went to the university, I had 3 student jobs at that time. So yeah, it's part of my mentality. I need to do something else. I get bored.
Did you have a specific goal when you're 14 and you say, I'm doing these jobs, maybe summer jobs, or did you have a specific thing that you wanted to buy? Or it was more like a kind of ego thing? I don't want to go to my mom and I want to be kind of independent.
Yeah, I think it was that. So I wanted to be independent, buy whatever I want. I didn't want to go and beg my mother to get some sort of money from her or my parents in general. So yeah, it was primarily about independence and doing whatever I want.
I think, you're Swiss, I'm Swiss too. We're going to talk about Switzerland. Obviously, we have to. But one thing that is very amazing about Switzerland, will be critical too, but amazing about Switzerland is you can be 14 years old and go work for your mom's friend or parents' friend or whatever and earn actually pretty freaking good money.
Yeah.
Like I had summer jobs all the time, a gardener, or I was working on construction fields.
Yeah.
And I was not even allowed. I think it was minimum 16 or 18 years old and I was like 14 or 15, but because we knew the guy, he was taking me and this would enable me to, I wanted to become a DJ and buy this DJ decks, but it cost like 4,000 or 5,000 Swiss franc, right? So I was like, how do I do that? I'll just go work for a couple of weeks on a construction field.
Yeah.
And you do that and you're 14 and you get the 4 or 5K that you need, right? Which is kind of crazy. And
it's an enabler for sure.
It's incredible. Like if you think about, for example, Switzerland or most countries, like you cannot be making that much money at 14 working on construction field.
Not even sure if it would have been allowed. I mean, also no clue about my case, so I'm not revealing the company's name, but but it was a good experience. It teaches you from the early days on that if you do some sort of work, it pays off as well. Depends, of course, on what kind of work and how can you scale it, but that's a different story.
Did you think, for example, when I did gardener, construction field, a bunch of like pretty tough jobs. All day long, 12, 13 hours a day under the sun, sweating.
Yeah.
I was really thinking, I was in secondary school. I was thinking, you have these different, at least in Switzerland, probably in most countries, you have these different classes where you are. Either you're like a kind of bright student, kind of average, or you're not really doing well at school. And then you're going to be predestined to different kind of jobs, right? And I was doing really good grades, but I was thinking, all these people who are not in the doing well at school because they don't really care, they should be kind of forced to go do these kind of jobs at 14 to realize, hey, is this really the life you want in the future? Yeah. And when I was doing that, I was like, holy shit, okay, it's good for the money and for buying my DJ decks, but like this is also good to show me that I know why I'm...
You don't want to do that long term.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know why I'm working even like already now, like studying hard or whatever, doing good grades or like, because you start to understand the world better and what's kind of possible in the future depending on...
Absolutely. Yeah, I fully agree. It's of course nice and also you need to see it in different relations. So if you're 14, like $4,000 might be a lot for you. It's like a fortune. But nowadays it's not really a lot of money. So you get kind of different ratios at one point in time. So you need to think ahead of the curve and assess where do you want to be like in 10, 20 years. So I think for that it's super important.
I have one interesting one because I felt the same. And because we're Swiss again, in Switzerland, we're kind of trained to think conservatively. Yeah. And you are at the helm of Bitcoin Suisse. We'll talk about Bitcoin Suisse obviously later. You're one of the co-founders. You're the CEO. The company I think, was valued 300 million Swiss francs a couple of years ago, which is pretty big numbers, obviously. But you said, 4K is a lot. Obviously, is a lot. Given the very conservative Swiss side, how do you go from 4K is a lot to maybe even 300 million is not a lot?
I guess it's part of the journey. So if you have like ambitions, you want to achieve something, it can be monetary, but it can also be like other things. But you have like a number in mind, and at one point you achieve that, and then you aim for the next bigger number and the next bigger number. So it's a continuous journey. And at one point, even like money doesn't become that relevant anymore. So for me, for example, now freedom is much more important than just money, because theoretically, I mean, a lot of the people in the industry could have retired many years ago, but you need to do something that you like to do actually. So I think doing something that you like, but also having the freedom to do more or less whatever you want is super important, more than just money itself.
Quick one. I want to thank our partners who help us make this show possible. I'd like to thank our friends at Jupiter, the DeFi super app. Anything you want to do on chain, from trading to earning yield, you can just use Jupiter. Personally, I'd recommend getting the Jupiter wallet on either your laptop or your phone, 10 times faster and 10 times cheaper than the competition. You're gonna love it. Thank you to the awesome team at KAST Card, my go-to card to spend my stablecoins directly with my Apple Pay to buy anything, food, coffee, hotel night, or plane tickets without having to use a bank ever again. Who are you?
I guess I'm someone that entered the crypto space a long time ago. I went down the rabbit hole at the time before crypto was cool and before it was mainstream. And I think I also tried the forbidden fruit at that time. So I got fascinated about the industry. I got inspired, but also motivated to build a company in the space, despite everybody saying, hey, this will ruin your career, it will not work out, and so on. So I'm happy that I did it, and I continue to do so. I'm still all in on crypto because I believe in the long term in it. I believe that crypto is the biggest enabler of structural efficiency that finance has ever seen. Thus also the biggest financial choice that humanity has ever seen.
That was in 2013, so
Yeah.
12, 13 years ago. How did you get so fascinated by the world of crypto? I mean, probably more Bitcoin back then.
Yeah, so that is also the reason why we call the company Bitcoin Suisse.
Mm.
But I mean, I was studying in St. Gallen at that time, the university. So I learned everything about like centralized financial systems. That was directly after the financial crisis, more or less. So I was skeptical about the longevity of the system, of fiat money in general. Then a friend of mine, the other co-founder, Fabian, started to talk about Bitcoin for the first time. He read the white paper. I had to read the white paper, and that was the beginning of the journey down the rabbit hole.
How did you understand, because you're still a student, Great financial crisis is 2008 and 9.
Yeah.
This is 2013. So my guess is you were kind of still in high school when the Great Financial Crisis happened. Or maybe just out.
Yeah, around there.
How did you really understand what was happening? Because you need to probably be either very smart, either working, either own stocks or something to realize, shit, like something is weird or maybe not working as we think, to then be able to realize, oh shit, a few years later, oh shit, this Bitcoin thing is actually the answer.
Honest answer, I didn't. So I didn't understand it at that time. I didn't understand the impact of the financial crisis. I didn't understand Bitcoin when I started, but I was fascinated about how a decentral form of money can work as an alternative to a centralized system. I met a lot of very interesting people in the industry, and I was starting to fall in love with the industry because so many clever people that were building on something completely new, completely revolutionary. That was the fascination for me, and also the motivation at the end of the day to do the same.
Tell me something about you that can help me and the audience trust more what you'll share with us today.
I mean, we have been in the space, as I mentioned, since very early on, at the point in time where we could have taken the safe bet and just do what all the other students did at the university, start work for a bank or go into consulting, do something similar. We didn't, so we believed in the space at a time where there was not really a lot of money to be made in. Actually, my biggest dream in the early days was that if we one day can manage to have like a company that can have like 10 employees, maybe 12 employees that all sustainably live like from what we're doing in the crypto space, it would have been already like amazing. Of course, we exceeded that goal, but that was a little bit the scope in the early days of how we have seen the whole industry. So we started for different reasons, because we believed in the potential of it for society as well. I was fascinated as well about the idea and tempted to build a company in practical terms, not just what you learn in theory from the university. So also that was fascinating. And we continue to do that and build up a lot of trust, build up a brand in the industry. And I'm pretty proud to what we've achieved so far.
What was the price of Bitcoin when you started your journey?
When I started, it was around, I think, $500. Then it went up to 1,300. Then Mt. Gox collapsed. Silk Road happened slightly afterwards, and we were there in Switzerland, the only ones running around trying to promote crypto and say, hey, here's Bitcoin, and it will change the world, and so on. Obviously, timing was like super bad, because all this kind of initial steam that we got was completely crashed and destroyed after those two events. Then Bitcoin dropped from, I think, 1,300 to 200, even below 200. And then at one point it started again. But that was the first kind of bear market that I've seen.
Which lasted a long time, like 3 years.
Yeah, pretty long time, yeah. But it was super valuable time for us as well. In the meantime, we learned a lot. We managed to build a lot. We also tried a lot of different things. So while our original idea and vision was always to provide access to crypto to the average people out there, so it was about trading, brokering, and so on. We also tried a lot of different other things like ATMs and mining and consulting and whatnot. But at one point, you need to come to the entrepreneurial conclusion what works and what not, because also the whole space is evolving and growing. So for us, it was very valuable. I mean, every bear market is super valuable in order to make a few steps back and reassess what is really working and what not, and then to continue and have a newer focus.
How did you keep faith? Because you said, I didn't really understand, very honestly, I didn't really understand what Bitcoin was and what the point was in the kind of greater fiat currency system and all that stuff. But you still stuck for 3 years during a bear market where there was probably no money and probably most people were telling you, what the fuck are you doing with your life? You were in Switzerland, you just did the best school in Switzerland. All your friends, or most of them, they're working for McKinsey or Boston Consulting Group or Credit Suisse, making, I don't know, maybe probably 10K a month, and you're there fucking around with this magic internet money that just went down 85% or 90% and is not going back up for 3 years. And again, you're in Switzerland. We don't take risks. How did you stuck there? Like, what was the... Is it a denial? Is it madness? Is it... what's the...
Yeah, maybe it's the reason or that I'm just half Swiss, but the other half is Slovenian, but they're not much more of risk takers. So maybe that's not the excuse here. But maybe we were just crazy at that time. So it sounds completely absurd. I mean, you need to be crazy listening to your summary now, which is pretty spot on to still be in the space. But the honest answer is, I mean, I told you before, I had like 3 student jobs at that time. Bitcoin Swiss was one. The other one was like in a security company, and the other one was like on an international basis, also in security. And I knew that my future after finishing Husky, the University of St. Gallen, is probably not like in physical security. So I was keen to find some sort of an entry into the business world. At the same time, I got like an opportunity to build a company from scratch. And at the same time, I was like in a very fascinating industry where I was learning on a daily basis every time new things, plus being surrounded by a lot of very clever and interesting people.
What's your view on the space 13 years later, now in late 2025, early 2026?
On one side, I'm very proud to what we have achieved as an industry because, as I mentioned before, my biggest dream was like, let's have a company with maybe 10 people, like a KMU, like a small mid-sized company in Switzerland. Everybody's doing something in the space, but of course we exceeded that. We became much bigger, but also the whole industry became much bigger. So nowadays we talk about regulatory tailwind. We talk about, even adoption on a governmental basis of crypto or Bitcoin at least. We talk about treasury strategies and so on. Those are all topics that would have been completely unimaginable in those early days. So I'm super happy to what we have seen, but there is also some sort of a dilution happening, of course, because when we started, there was a handful of different tokens. Now you have like 35 million or even more, which is completely absurd. So the more the space is drifting a little bit away from, let's say, the really relevant projects that are here to stay here also in the next 5 and 10 years. I think there is automatically some sort of a dilution, and that's probably also where a lot of the people will lose a lot of the money. And you see it every time, and there is like a correction, crypto winter or something happening, and all the altcoins are completely smashed. Most of them completely disappear. So that's the dangerous part and the negative side of things.
You've seen it all last 13 years, and you said there's a handful kind of serious or interesting projects. What's a serious or interesting project that has longevity potential in crypto?
Bitcoin. No,
I was interviewing Matt, the CIO of Bitwise. Bitwise, one of our sponsors. He's the CIO. He was the CEO of ETF.com.
Yeah.
He understands long-term investing.
Yeah.
I was like, how similar is crypto investing to traditional investing? He says very similar. Then I'm like, what crypto asset are you confident to buy and hold for the next 5 to 10 years? He said, Bitcoin.
Well, I've been surprised if it's something different.
Bitcoin and Bitcoin, basically.
Yeah. I mean, there is obviously also other stuff in the industry, other layer ones and projects that are super exciting. So, of course, nowadays the narrative is a lot about stable coins, which I think is one of the real adoptions in the industry, where you can talk about mass adoption and solving a real world problem. There is DeFi, which is super interesting, but it's like very niche in the industry. But often you don't even need to think too far away, because Bitcoin has been around since the beginning. It's the mother of all. And if you look at the structural problems in today's financial environment, but also like of today's society, I think Bitcoin can be one of the remedies, and is certainly a little bit underrated, because everybody that is joining now the space, they know Bitcoin a little bit, and then they think, Bitcoin is so expensive nowadays. It's like over 100K. It used to be 5K or even below. Let's buy something else where I can make my 50x, my 100x. But I mean, the risk that people are losing everything on that kind of bet is insane. So I think that's extremely dangerous.
What do you tell to people who come at Bitcoin Suisse, or your friends who say Bitcoin at 100 or 130 or 150K is too expensive? What's your answer to that?
I mean, expensive is always relative. So I think it's one side of things to look at it, but it's historic. So you might have seen Bitcoin at 5K and now it's 100K, and now you see this as expensive. But the question is not really what has happened the last 5 or 10 years in Bitcoin, but what will happen in the next 5 to 10 years. So it's all relative, this kind of comparison. So if you think that Bitcoin will reach a new all-time high, or that it's substantially higher in the next like 5 years, higher than like 110K now or whatever, it still is a good trade to invest into it like long term. Then the question is also, what kind of alternatives do you actually have? What else do you do with the money? So from that perspective on, I think it's only one side of the story to look back into the history. The other one is really, what's the potential for the future, and what can you do now in order to transport money from today to tomorrow, but also in order to potentially generate generational wealth, and what you need to do now and what you should not miss.
What's the potential for the future
for Bitcoin? I mean, potential is big. So I mean, now we have been talking about mass adoption. There is governments talking about it. There is regulation basically everywhere about crypto. So Bitcoin really is being adopted by a lot of different industries and different kind of stakeholders. The future is, I think, more on a global perspective and macro level. If you look at all the other asset classes, so what's like the next kind of target for Bitcoin? So reached 100K, great. We reached 120, 125K and so on. But for me, I think it's more important to see what are all the other asset classes doing. And if you look into the overall trend that trust into centralized systems is probably not growing at the moment. It's rather lacking. Into fiat money, the same. So the question is, how can you flee away from this kind of fiat ecosystem where you are being eroded away with inflation? And what kind of alternatives do you have? And there you can look at global gold market, you can look at bonds, you can look at real estate and so on. But bonds will suffer from the same. If there is not really a lot of trust into centralized systems, the bond market will suffer from that. Just need to look at the yield curve to realize that. If you look at real estate, for example, I think also real estate will change globally, because with upcoming AI wave, with unemployment numbers probably just increasing, the demand for, let's say, prime real estate in major cities probably will also decrease. People will not be able to afford it again. So what's the purpose of this as an investment? If you don't really generate yield from it, if it doesn't really increase in value from it, gold the same. It's not really a finite good. So
even though gold is performing amazingly well now, we have to say.
It is. And I mean, I also have gold. So nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, it's about the diversification of the portfolio, right?
You said I also have gold. You mentioned that real estate might not be the best investment in the future. And I hear that for a lot of my guests who are people who made crazy money and understand about investing. When most of the people will tell you, buy a house, it's going up forever, blah, blah, blah. Like people I talk to who are much smarter than me tell me, not that good. Do you own real estate?
I do, yeah.
And why?
I do, but it's real estate that I live in. So I don't have real estate to rent it out or to have it as a business case, so to say. So I own real estate where I live in because I like a nice house and so on. We could now debate. I mean, I could also rent it and do something else with the money. But if you're like 100% in crypto, and that's where I came from at one point, it's also about diversification out of crypto. But I bought real estate for that, but also gold and other stuff to diversify properly. But nowadays, I mean, if you live from paycheck to paycheck and your big dream is like getting a house one day and you barely can afford a mortgage, then it's probably like a very bad investment decision. If you need to live somewhere and you want to have like a nice house and you have excess cash on the side, buy it, right? I mean, that's probably not a big problem. But if you look into the structural problem, that Switzerland is a good example, interest rates on zero. So having real estate to rent it out and collect like rental income is not that interesting anymore. You can barely hit or match the inflation rate with it. So it's rather a liability in that sense because you have capital bound. And if people who upcoming like unemployment waves will not be able to afford real estate, you will also have a lot of, let's say, empty apartments in your buildings and so on. So the business case is decreasing, and probably also the price of real estate. Not like prime locations and luxury stuff. For that, there is always a market, but like the middle kind of segment.
If I live from paycheck to paycheck and I still manage to save some money that I want to invest, but my goal is to buy that house or that flat.
Yeah.
What do you recommend?
Don't buy it. I mean, you don't want to be in financial troubles, right? So the biggest mistake you can do is to not have enough capital on the side to continue to afford it. And then once you're squeezed into a certain area, then you do bad decisions. So if you need to sell whatever kind of asset under time pressure, it's usually a bad deal. And if you force yourself through that, and I mean, especially in Switzerland, most jobs are like white collar jobs. So if AI really kicks in, and that will happen for sure the next like 10 years, 15 years, first impact we already see now, people probably will lose the job. They won't be able to afford the rent anymore or the mortgage. Then you need to sell it at a very low valuation. So yeah, don't do it.
You mentioned Switzerland quite a lot.
I know that you're Swiss. So
tell me the good, the bad, and the ugly on Switzerland.
Switzerland is a beautiful place. It's a good one. I believe in the long run in Switzerland that there is some sort of a wave of common sense at one point coming back again. It's not always there.
You think Swiss people have lost their common sense?
I would say so, yeah.
Why? I hope this goes on Swiss TV.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's there's a lot of things that are, I mean, obviously I'm in crypto and Switzerland had really the first mover advantage to be early in crypto. But if you look at what has happened in the last 5 years, it's not really a lot, actually nothing. So if you look at other markets more globally, they have been really benefiting from those kind of early pioneering efforts of Switzerland, but they continued the journey and they started to attract businesses. They started to finance businesses and build something up, new industries. If you look at Switzerland, we have a lot of white-collar jobs. So we're very service-minded. We live on this holy grail kind of banking segment, but also that is shrinking. Pharma, with the latest news on the tariff side, is probably moving slowly abroad. Other industries as well, like don't know, pocket knives and watch industry, also they need to think about, hey, how can we be competitive globally? How can we compensate for tariffs? I don't think we negotiated an extremely good deal there. So those are, let's say, the bad and ugly elements. But in the long run, I'm still optimistic because Switzerland has a good history of doing the right things in the long run. So I have some sort of hope that common sense is coming back and the right priorities as well, that we manage to attract businesses instead of sending them elsewhere.
Thank you to our friends at Paradex for supporting this show. Paradex is the leading perpetuals decentralized exchange with zero fees, deep liquidity, and privacy. Season 2 runs through the end of January, so you do not want to miss this one. Trade on Paradex and start earning points by using the link in the description down below. At When Shift Happens, we're huge believers in freedom, and privacy is at the core of it. That is why we partnered with Zashi Wallet, the easiest self-custody wallet for private transactions. You can send, receive, and spend Zcash without middleman or surveillance using Zashi, the wallet that was built by the team that launched Zcash in 2016. Thank you to Mantle, the distribution layer that connects traditional finance and on-chain liquidity for real-world assets. To accelerate this vision, Mantle is running the Mantle Global Hackathon and is inviting developers, founders, and innovators to design, build, and deploy scalable real-world assets and decentralized products on Mantle. Check the description down below to participate in the Mantle Global Hackathon and make a difference. What's your view on banks? Personal view on banks. For example, I haven't had probably more than $500 on a traditional bank account in the last 10 years. I moved to London in 2015 and then it was the beginning of Revolut and Monzo.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is so good. Why would I own? Why would I have money on my bank account, right? And now I'm at the next level where I live on stable coins. I think most people are not at that level yet, obviously, but I just like that basically KAST. Just spend your stable coins. I never
Card
need to
looks
get.
Good, actually.
Card looks great. Gold card.
Yeah, super fancy.
So with this, but there's a bunch of others, right?
Mm.
I mean, the business is run on stable coins. My life pretty much run on stable coins, and I can just with Apple Pay spend my stable coins. I don't even need to use a Monzo or Revolut anymore, right? So I'm kind of like extreme, but not because I'm like, oh, fuck the banks, it's shit. It's just like you find something better, you just use it, right?
Yeah. What's
your view on banks? Especially you said Switzerland is built on freaking banks, right?
I agree.
And these banks, they're basically done. If you think about maybe not now, but like new generations.
I think the days are counted. I mean, obviously large banks, let's say the larger 10% of the banks, they will survive. They have enough capital, maybe even 20%. But all the smaller ones, they live basically from capital that they have from, let's say, former generations. But now the new generations are taking over. They have different interests in terms of asset classes they can invest in, credit cards, like e-banking and all those like kind of nitty-gritty details, but they matter because you want those kind of features. And having Revolut, for example, as a benchmark, I mean, it's a great tool. Also use Revolut for like international transactions to convert money and so on as a travel card. So it's difficult for a lot of the banks to keep up with this kind of service offering or actually product offering rather than service offering. The service itself is even getting less important because somebody that takes over the wealth of, let's say, their parents, I mean, they're not that interested to know now the personal relationship manager that might be 65 and retires in a year, right? I mean, yeah, why would I? I'm interested in different kind of elements. And if the bank cannot provide it, it's pretty easy to move capital nowadays. So I'm not really bound or very loyal to this kind of bank. So that's why I think a lot of the banks will die out or consolidate or be absorbed by some larger banks over the next 10, 15 years for sure.
Do you feel like your Swiss mindset has prevented you from achieving much more in life?
That sounds a little bit cynical, but yeah, I mean, the Swiss mindset, I think we quickly talked about that. So the Swiss mindset has certainly prevented us from growing faster because we organically grew in the early days. We tried to grow very conservatively through retained earnings, through doing it slowly and so on. We didn't go out and do a crazy fundraise and try to hyperscale 5, 6, 7 years of burn rate and then try to become profitable. So we did it the opposite way.
7 years.
7 years of retained earnings, not getting a salary. I mean, not for 7 years, but for a few years for sure, injecting capital into the firm. So that's what we did. And why I'm not so negative about it is because it's probably a reason why we're still around. We could have also died because we have seen so many companies in the last 12 years popping up like mushrooms in the forest. But yeah, who is still around? It's exactly the same that started those many years ago.
I remember 4 years ago, 2021, when there was this CDFI wave, right? The BlockFi and Celsius and all these guys. It was amazing. You could just take your crypto and earn yield.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who told me that, but I remember someone was saying, I know these guys at Bitcoin Suisse, and they're saying that what Celsius is doing is impossible mathematically, right? And I was a big Celsius believer. I was a early token holder. I was an investor in the round A, which a year later, on the equity, we had 20 or 30x, right? Before it blew up, obviously. So obviously, I wanted to believe that what Celsius was doing was possible, right? But then I don't remember who, but someone was saying, these guys at Bitcoin Suisse, they've been here since 2013.
Boring guys.
These boring guys. I was thinking, I'm Swiss. I'm like, these boring dudes. Don't be a party pooper. They say that these yields are not sustainable and not possible.
Yeah.
Like this 5% on Bitcoin or whatever, 8% on stable coins. And fast forward 4 years later, Bitcoin Suisse is still alive and thriving, and Celsius went bankrupt and screwed a lot of people. My family included, who got sued in Switzerland.
No way.
Got how do we say that? When they send you the paper at home with the stamp of the Swiss lawyers.
Yeah.
Very fucked up situation. Anyway, you were the boring guys who said that the yields were not sustainable and who were right.
Who's laughing now? No, I mean, the thing is, I know those days very well. So it was the usual kind of hype times where everybody is overwhelmed and overexcited about all the new stuff that is happening. So I've seen it so many different times. I came into the industry because of Bitcoin. Then all of a sudden Ethereum happened and something else later, all the ICOs. I was always more excited about that. So I can even understand this rationale. But zooming a little bit out and coming back to the entrepreneurial story, this kind of being conservative, I mean, we obviously always assessed all those trends. If it was like Celsius and I mean, we also traded with FTX and all of that. So we knew those platforms very well, but we have been confronted by a lot of clients saying, hey, this platform pays me such a high yield or their custody fee is lower and so on. But I mean, at the end of the day, what does it matter if you save 5 basis points here and your money is gone the next day? Or if a platform is paying 10% staking rewards on Bitcoin, I mean, how does that work? So obviously you need to enter some sort of a risk in order to pay those kind of interest rates to clients. The same on the staking side. If if Ethereum is paying like 5% on the network and somebody offers 10%, then they do some shenanigans on top of that, right?
But how do you explain that to your clients?
I mean, our clients are primarily interested in having a long-term partner, so in having somehow the safe bet. So a lot of them, they made their money on platforms or tokens or whatever, but at one point they want the safe place on the custody side. They want somebody that understands staking, where they can allocate the funds to, where somebody that has a dedicated team to outperform the benchmarks on a regular basis, but that also has, I mean, even best execution. Our standard offering sounds pretty boring because we're a broker. So we do not really compete with the exchanges, but we use all the exchanges, and the clients benefit from better prices and best execution at the end of the day, while having a Swiss counterparty and not an exchange somewhere in the Bahamas, right?
Yeah, I was having this conversation with Anthony, the co-founder of Swissborg, and he was saying, we had this, when there was this DeFi yield craze, we had this new offering, and after a few months we had 1.5 billion under asset just on this yield thing. And then the other competitors, they came with higher yields, and then the whole thing melted to $300 million just because people were chasing these yields. And we had to make the decision internally to not compete because we knew it was not possible, right? Then he said, one of the main reasons we didn't do it is because we didn't have investors, right? If you have VCs, I mean, they had the ICO investors, but like if you have VC that didn't say, hey, the competitor that I'm also invested in, like they're doing that, so you do that, right? And they probably would have died otherwise, right? So there is a good side of like doing things
the Swiss way.
The Swiss way.
So it's not all negative, but you're right. It's it can hinder you in terms of growth and like doing it the American way. On the other side, it's sometimes good, especially in crypto, to do it slow and conservative.
You said before Bitcoin.
Bitcoin Swiss.
Bitcoin Swiss. Bitcoin for the next 5-10 years. It's almost becoming too consensus. Like Bitcoin is going to go to $1 million. Like, hey, I remember when Bitcoin was 3K and we kind of, if you understood Bitcoin, you knew it would go to 100K. Now we're well past 100K and probably going to go to $1 million. But maybe not. What's the main risk with Bitcoin today?
I mean, there is a couple of risks like in the industry, for sure. But I rather see, let's say, the upside. But of course, you also need to understand the risks in the industry. So you have, I mean, the original idea of Bitcoin is about decentralization. What you see nowadays is some sort of centralization, be it large custodians where all the ETF funds are lying around, or very dominant counterparties in the industry, digital assets, treasury strategies that are growing, which are all good in a sense, but all of them lead to some sort of centralization of the ecosystem. So I see this potentially as a risk, but I think the industry can deal with it. But if something major happens to any of those platforms, of course, that could lead to a major collapse as well. That will not just bring Bitcoin down, but also the whole industry. But overall, again, I try to see the glass half full usually. So I rather think about opportunities in the industry. But of course, you need to understand risks first.
Bitcoin Suisse. You're the co-founder and CEO of Bitcoin Suisse. What is Bitcoin Suisse? If you had to explain it to your mom.
Bitcoin Suisse is a financial institution that is focusing on crypto assets primarily, offering access to them, safeguarding them, and then offering a lot of additional services on top of that.
You started early with a key differentiation from other exchanges out there. You said a physical office, a phone number, and Switzerland.
The combination makes it.
You're telling me that in 2014, Bitcoin exchanges didn't have offices and there was no one to call?
They had offices, but usually they were hidden on some sort of a tower without any name on the doorbell or on the postbox. Definitely no phone number. So for us, it was not a groundbreaking idea, but it was certainly a differentiator that we were not like hiding behind the platform, but that we were stepping in and saying, hey, this is our office, come to our office, meet us, have a conversation, learn more about crypto, purchase crypto, do whatever you want. I mean, there was this kind of entry hurdle that we tried to actually embrace interested people and handhold them on their journeys within the crypto space. And of course, the phone number helped to stay alive.
You guys have 6 billion in assets under management now. How big do you think that number would be if you had gone all in on the hyper growth train that some other businesses, more international ones, went on 10 years ago?
Could have been higher, but could also be now zero. So the chances that we would have disappeared in exactly that game would have been substantially higher. So not just that, we probably... The problem is also with like hyperscaling, and we did it a couple of times where you like hire every month, there's like 20, 30 people new starting in the company, and you need to train them and educate them and so on. But over time, not everybody has like the same kind of mindset. They fit equally well into the culture. They can absorb all this kind of hyper growth. They can live with that. You need to keep up with systems, automations, and all of that. So having some sort of a plateau at one point to really take some breath and focus on like improving the basis as well, on getting more hardcore, the inner workings, I think is extremely important. So if you're just focusing on scaling, you probably also miss out on the very basics of your firm. If it's like culture, if it's people management, if it's like system improvements, at one point it's just too much.
Do you have any regrets? As I said before, Bitcoin was last valued, I think 5 years ago, over 300 million Swiss franc, which looks like the classic 10 years overnight success. But let's talk about the reality. You told me the other day when we talked, there were 20 plus moments where you considered shutting down or selling the company. That's much more interesting than the headlines of, hey, these guys are so successful. They raised so much money. They're worth that much, right? They're the smart kids. Tell me about 2 times you got the closest to pulling the plug or selling.
The first time was probably, I don't know, 2-3 months after we started. So because the main founder, I mean, we all did it like part-time. So we all had our like kind of side jobs or normal jobs. The main founder, with his salary, he paid the other 2 guys, Fabian and myself, on hourly basis. And the idea was that we work for the company like half a day per week. But we started to slowly increase and started to work all of a sudden 7 days a week. So economically, at one point, it didn't make sense anymore that his entire salary is eroded away by us working so hard. And then the company was theoretically broke after a few months. And he decided, hey guys, let's close the shop. It doesn't make sense like that. And the next day, Fabian and myself, we came back that, hey, we're also like working for free here. We don't do it for the money. We believe in the potential of what we're building for the future. We believe in the industry, and we love what we're doing already after a couple of months. So we then all became actually partners in the firm, or like co-founders in that sense. And we decided, hey, if we want to do this, we need to do it for real. So we need to dedicate more time into it. We need to reduce the capacity on the other jobs. And then we started to go all in on the firm.
What's another time, maybe more recent?
I mean, there is constantly like a lot of attacks, like from the industry. I mean, in the earlier days, regulation was difficult to deal with because when we started, nobody really knew how to treat Bitcoin legally. Is it like money? Is it a commodity? What is it? I mean, we had legal papers saying that it's like nothing. It's certainly not money, right? So why would you deal about regulation? But we still became self-regulated in 2014. But that was like a lot of discussions around those topics. We as an industry were faster than, let's say, the regulators, but also, let's say, the lawmakers. That led to a lot of challenges. On the other side, for example, dealing with banks, TradFi institutions, and try to make your life difficult. Another threat is like all of a sudden competition that is coming. In the early days, we had a monopoly. At one point, like more and more players started to appear. Then, like of course, also cyber criminals try to attack you with like DDoS attacks and whatnot, trying to attack your clients at the end of the day. all of those things you need to factor in. And as you mentioned before, you always you cannot be happy with yourself. You always need to improve and get better and get better.
What's the origin behind the name Bitcoin Suisse? There's a cool story there.
So as I mentioned, so the main founder, Nicholas, he was working at Credit Suisse in the earlier days. So he tried to actually create some sort of a crypto trading place within Credit Suisse. But you can imagine 2011, 12, he didn't have too many supporters of that idea. So he decided to do it on the side, and that's how we then met in the early days. And yeah, I think the original idea was Credit Suisse, like, yeah, let's do something with Bitcoin, create Bitcoin Suisse. But yeah, it's not that good of an example anymore. I mean, Credit Suisse is gone.
Look at the irony. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He Nicholas, literally working for Credit Suisse, trying to build a Bitcoin trading infrastructure internally, or crypto trading infrastructure. They say no.
Maybe they should have done it.
And fast forward 13 years later, Credit Suisse is gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. Multi-billion-dollar bank. Bitcoin Suisse is thriving. Bitcoin and crypto are thriving. It's pretty insane. It's pretty insane.
That is when shift happens. So we're living the moment.
Well done. Good one.
Yeah, thanks.
Actually, that's the reason why we call the... Basically, shit happens all the time, right? But shift is happening. Like there's a mega shift happening. Yeah. The reason why there's a when is because, I mean, you know it, you build companies, like finding a name that where you can get, for example, the podcast name on YouTube, on Spotify, or the website name is actually harder. So shift happens or shit happens, all taken, right?
Yeah.
When shift happens, not taken.
It was unique. But I like the name. It's good because it's an exciting time that we're in, and it's spot on.
Absolutely. If you're on the right side of the story, it's
of the
very,
shift.
Yeah, of the shift, absolutely.
Or if you don't miss the shift. And I think that's another big risk that we're having now. I don't think that people are understanding the magnitude and the importance of the decisions we need to do today in order to be around tomorrow or have freedom tomorrow.
Very, very true. And you mentioned, again, Switzerland, these big banks, these private banks where all these kind of older families, they keep all their wealth, often in pure cash. Because they're older people, they don't want even stock market volatility. Yeah. And they don't realize this shift or wealth transfer that they basically are getting debased like crazy, 12, 15% a year, right? With the asset price inflation, the hurdle rate. Yeah. And it's all going into new asset classes like Bitcoin and crypto. And these people are becoming the new wealthy. Yeah. And there's a mega shift happening. And if you're not paying attention to that, well, good luck.
The problem is, I mean, it's difficult to pay attention for the average person out there and the bigger masses, because Switzerland, but I think in the whole Western world, we grow up in a system that tells you need to work your entire life, and if you can retire with 65 or even later, you will have a good life because you have some sort of savings on the side, you have a pension fund and all of that. I mean, this concept, I think, is outdated, completely outdated. The pension fund system is a Ponzi scheme at the end of the day. If you have less kind of people that are growing in a society, the birth rates are coming down. If you have longevity and people are getting older and older, it's very difficult to maintain this kind of system. And the same is like this fantasy construct that you need to work your entire life in order to then have the freedom, if you're still alive and healthy, the moment you retire. I think it's outdated and it's stupid. We have other possibilities nowadays to leave the system and to opt out into something new.
Quick one. I want to thank our partners who help us make this show possible. Thank you, Trezor, my favorite cold wallet to store my crypto and make sure I sleep well at night. If you want to order a Trezor wallet and sleep well at night too, you can use my promo code WSH10 to get a 10% discount. Big thank you to Bitwise Asset Management for backing today's conversation. Bitwise is a crypto specialist asset manager with more than $15 billion in client assets across 30 plus crypto solutions, including ETFs, index funds, alpha strategies, staking, and more. However you like to invest in crypto, Bitwise has something for you. Thank you to our friends at Suisse for supporting this show. Suisse is a scalable layer 1 blockchain that's fast, secure, and affordable, built by previous Facebook developers, and that delivers the benefits of Web3 with the ease of Web2. Tell me more about this. So you said it's outdated.
Yeah.
What's indated or new dated for someone who is 25, 30, 35, our age, doesn't really, understand that things are, asset prices going crazy. It's very hard to even buy a house. Okay, I make decent money. What should I do? What should they do? How should they view retirement in 2025, 2026 for the next 5-10 years? What should they focus on instead of like what we're being told to focus on?
I think first of all, don't bet or hope for retirement in terms of like the government will do magic asset management for you and you will have enough money that you will have a decent life when you retire. And second, start to take your own destiny into your own hands. So start to get financially literate in terms of you need to understand what is happening around you. And I told you at the beginning, I was studying centralized financial systems at the university, but I had no clue about financial crisis and all of that. Only the last couple of years, actually, while studying Bitcoin, I started to understand the big picture, how the world is really working. So Bitcoin forced me to understand how money works, how all the different dots are connected. And that was an extremely valuable lesson, but it took me many years to understand the full picture. So starting with that now and understanding what is actually at stake is extremely important, because if you just think, this is not really relevant and it will definitely not happen to me, right? It will happen to all the others, then that's a very difficult situation to be in, because you completely neglect the importance of the current situation. So you need to act now by building up the relevant knowledge and understanding of how the dots are connected, and then making your own bets.
It's basically the difference between Keynesian economics that we've been taught at school and Austrian economics that gold people understood a long time ago and that Bitcoiners understood when Bitcoin started. And there's an amazing book called The Bitcoin Standard by Sefeni Namus.
That's really good.
That I read late 2018, early 19. And that people now are talking about this great debasement trade. That's why gold is going crazy. Bitcoin is doing decent. Actually, if you look at the chart of Bitcoin, I think yearly since 2009 or 10, and now it's like literally insane. And there was a chart the other day I saw. You see S&P 500 in dollar terms going up. Amazing. 2009, I made 6, 7, 8x, right? I'm getting rich. You're not. Then you divide S&P 500 by gold. Pretty much zero. You divide by Bitcoin, you're getting destroyed. And it's showing a completely different picture on
100%.
People don't understand this, right?
So also if you have your money invested into fixed income instruments, bonds and all of that, if you get some sort of 4 or 5% on it, if you factor in the inflation rate and the reduced purchasing power, it's a very bad deal. And when I was in high school, I was living under the impression that if you have enough money on the side one day in the future, that you can live from interest rate. Because you have it sitting around on a bank account and you get in
the passive income dream.
Passive income,
The passive income
but
dream.
also that, it might have been relevant back in the days, even in Switzerland, Swiss franc lost purchasing power of 50% in 50 years, 80% in 100 years. That's quite massive, right?
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
For people who say this is like the strongest currency in the world.
Which it is, or one of the stronger. So everything else is just shittier. The other day I was chatting a little bit with ChatGPT and asking some sort of questions. And then it came out with the answer and said, but for countries where they have even higher inflation, US dollar is still the safe haven bet and the place to go, which is true. But on the other side, it's just comparing one failed system with another one or soon failed system.
I think so you said Swiss franc is down 50% in terms of purchasing power in 50 years, 80% in 100 years. I think the dollar is down 98%, whatever, in 100 plus years. When people think that this is a great currency.
You see it even with Swiss francs. So it completely flipped. I remember when $1 at one point was like 125 Swiss francs. Now it's the opposite. And that was like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. Basically, every fiat currency goes in that direction. And if you look at the average lifespan of a fiat currency, I think it's like 25 years or so.
I read 27 years. Yeah.
Something like that. So it's a question of time until it will change again. And none of the currencies that we're using nowadays have been around for the last like 100, 200 years. I mean, British pound sterling is probably the oldest kind of fiat currency. But it's a question of time because the trend is going in a very clear direction. And if you compare it with gold, real estate, now Bitcoin, it's a bad trade to have it long term.
That's why Bitcoin is probably going to $1 million and more.
Yeah, the question is how much is like netto and what does the rest do, right? If all the fiat currencies are going down, but compared to that, for sure.
Absolutely, because we measure in dollar.
Still. But no, it's possible. And I mentioned it before. So if you compare Bitcoin with all the other kind of asset classes, and if you look at what happens with them, like fiat, like bond, all of them will be suffering. And also now, I mean, gold went up significantly, and Bitcoin is like 8% of gold or 10%, 8%, something like that. So also, if it just matches the market cap of gold, I mean, it's a 10x from here.
Absolutely. So, the higher gold goes, at least the theory is Bitcoin will catch up on gold because it's kind of digital gold at some point. The higher gold goes, the better it is for Bitcoin. Yeah. Because the date matches.
Yeah, and in a digital environment, I think there is even like benefits of a digital currency like Bitcoin. So you can travel across borders with like a couple of words in your head, and that's all your wealth. If I buy gold at the bank, for example, a couple of kilos, I mean, try to travel cross borders with it. I mean, it will be confiscated, even though it's your money and you have like a piece of paper next to it. So it's not really portable in that sense. Plus, it's not very handy as well. So I think there's a lot of benefits of digital currencies, especially Bitcoin in that sense, not just to move money across borders and geographically, but also across time. So from today to tomorrow, and still maintain the purchasing power, but ideally, have even an upside that you don't have in fiat.
Absolutely. You mentioned before, some people might remember Bitcoin at 5K or 3K. I remember well. I remember when I came across Bitcoin Suisse the first time, 2020 February or January. Yeah. On the Swiss TV, your original visionary founder, Niklas, was on the TV. Yeah. And it was a very Swiss kind of documentary where they were like, in Switzerland, we don't talk about money much, right? And the reporter, she was a woman. She was like, so it was basically in Jan 2020, and there was this thing called Bitcoin halving in April, I think, or May 2020. Which was supposed to kick in the next wave, right? There's these cycles every 4 years. I mean, now the 4-year cycle might be over, whatever.
So, yeah.
You don't think so?
I would say so, yes.
You would say so?
Definitely.
We'll talk about that just after then, because this is very interesting. Tell me now, why do you think, and then we'll get back to the story.
Okay, to the Niklas story. I mean, in the past, there was this kind of rationale that the halving cycle is like having an impact. Of course, long term, for sure. The question is now a little bit, was it really the crypto cycles, or was it like the election cycles in the US, or was it the overall, let's say, economical cycles that we have seen that were driving this from the beginning? But let's assume it was were the halving cycles. I think nowadays, with all the institutional adoption, that Bitcoin and crypto in general is much more mature, and it's driven by other forces, which is global geopolitics. It's tweets of presidents. It can be a lot of different things, but more, let's say, on a TradFi basis and on the whole macro picture.
I would actually see a tweet of president that is supposed to be the most powerful thing in the world.
That is.
Doesn't impact Bitcoin that much.
It impacts the overall perception and the traders, of course. So it can lead to a lot of panic. Actually, I mean, the last couple of months, it was pretty silent, and people started to like factor in a little bit that certain tweets or announcements of tariffs that didn't have like such a big impact until last Friday, where apparently some sort of a threshold has been crossed And it had an impact, not just on TradFi, but then certainly also.
But that's
on
a
the
very
crypto
short-term
market.
impact.
Exactly.
It's a big tweet,
No, I agree.
but it's a very short-term impact, which shows how resilient and strong at least Bitcoin is,
100%,
right?
100%.
Which shows that, hey, this 4-year cycle might not be relevant anymore.
I agree.
So back to the Niklas story.
Yes.
January 2020, he's on the Swiss TV, and then the reporter asks, what do you do? How much do you invest every day? And he explains this Bitcoin halving thing, and he says, in 4 months or 5 months, there's going to be this Bitcoin halving. So I'm investing 5K or 6K in Bitcoin and 5K or 6K in Ethereum every day. Then she's starting to calculate how much it is per month and over multiple months. And she's like, what the fuck, right? Like, and now 5K of Bitcoin doesn't sound a lot, right? But like back then was 1 or 2 Bitcoin every day, right?
Yeah.
And ETH was, I don't know, 50, 100 ETH every day, right? So, and she's like, what the fuck? Like, and so that's how I basically discovered Bitcoin Suisse with this guy who was like kind of a bit eccentric, right?
A little bit.
And she was asking him, because, again, there's this fascination for, we don't talk about money, but there's this fascination for money. She was like, how does it feel to, because if you're able to buy that much, it means you have shitload of money already.
Yeah.
How does it feel to have money like that? And then he was just saying, I remember like vividly, like he was saying, I have the same problems as everyone else. When I go home and my wife doesn't kiss me, I'm worried.
But the question is, what is the alternative? So also if you have like large capital on the side, how can you allocate it? So what do you really do with the money? And in the short term, it's completely fine to have like fiat on your bank account, because it's even like, also personally, it's part of the strategy to have a certain kind of balance on the side. If like shit hits the fan, everything collapses, then I have like quite interesting entry prices again. I usually try to buy the dip. At one point, of course, the last like 2 years or so, or 3 years, at one point liquidity is out of it, of course, but you should always have some sort of liquid buffer on the side. It could be stable coins, doesn't really matter, but some sort of less volatile asset in those times to benefit from lower prices. I think that's usually a good strategy, and then you need to find your own kind of optimum of the different, let's say, levels.
You mentioned multiple times Niklas, the visionary founder. He's not there anymore since multiple years.
Yeah.
And he's the guy who guys pulled you and your other co-founder in. How can a company survive and thrive without its original visionary founder?
I would say we were 3 from the beginning. So all 3 of us were playing together in a very special way, because we were all very complementary. So complete different characters, not just visually, but also like the way how we think. But that was part of the success recipe, because we tried to solve problems differently. We had a lot of very interesting and relevant conversations where somebody came in with a different angle that at the end of the day helped us to do the right decision. So the original vision was more or less, let's do something in crypto and let's provide access to crypto to the average people out there. We're still fighting for that. We're still fighting for adoption of crypto, but we also started to have a more clear role in the industry as a financial institution, as a service provider that is focusing on proximity to clients, on best-in-class service, on best execution, providing the best value for our clients long-term. And of course, now it's about trying to find the right niche in midst of all, let's say, the competition from mass plays like exchanges, from banks that are entering the space, from ETFs. But our sweet spot is right in the middle, where it's exactly about those things, where clients want to deal with somebody that understands crypto, and it's not like going to your banker and be treated like a criminal. Somebody that understands crypto from the very beginning, somebody that has like infrastructure that can do something more than just like custody of Bitcoin for like high prices. Somebody that can like offer best execution and limited counterparty risk with a player that has been around for many years.
We are recording this conversation from Abu Dhabi. You relocated here 2 years ago. Why?
Had multiple reasons. So on one side, I was responsible for the whole client management team at Bitcoin Suisse at that time, and we started to think a little bit about how can we export our business model like on a more global basis. So I started to then hand over this business to my successor because it was like very operational, had a team of up to 80 people at one point. So I tried to become more an entrepreneur again, like I did it in the early days. So I ventured then for the topic called global expansion and growing internationally. And we looked at different geographic regions on how interesting they are. And we saw Middle East and especially UAE and Abu Dhabi as extremely interesting because they had a regulatory framework pretty early on, and they managed to attract new businesses, new entities here. It's very international. If you talk to the people here, you instantly realize the mindset. Everybody's here to work. You don't have this 9 to 5 and work-life balance kind of discussions as you have it in Switzerland and other regions. So it was very motivating to be here. Plus, we saw it somehow as a hedge as well towards the economical situation in Europe that has its own challenges and problems. So I was fascinated to build up a company under the umbrella of Bitcoin Suisse from the very beginning again in a new geographic region.
Why Abu Dhabi specifically?
So it was part of a shortlist where we also looked at other jurisdictions like Hong Kong, for example, Singapore, Dubai, same UAE. But at one point we said, Asia is again on the very other side of things. It's a little bit too far away. We didn't really have a lot of, let's say, contacts or relations there. So it would have been even newer to us. Middle East, we already knew a little bit. We had like clients here and so on. So the entry felt a little bit easier. Plus it was like closer logistically. So and it's a growing economy. So I think they did a lot of the right bets, focusing on regulation, focusing on licenses, but also attracting new businesses here, even funding a lot of startups and smaller companies. So I think that was a clever move.
You mentioned the hustler mindset versus the work-life balance. But you're a hustler. You're a born hustler. How much of a difference does it make to your life? Be surrounded by hustlers?
I think it matters a lot, to be honest. If we would have had the lazy people as of day one, the company would probably also not be here. So all of us, we were working day and night. So with the three of us, the three like co-founders, we had a 24/7 service offering. So with at the peak over 300 people, we didn't have a 24/7 service offering. So let that sink. And I really mean it. So if a client called in the middle of the night, or if somebody was on vacation, or didn't matter. We picked up the phone. And it was not like a million trades. Somebody that wanted to buy Bitcoin for $300, we picked up the phone in the middle of the night, right? If somebody had a problem with one of the ATM vending machines where the paper money was stuck, we sent somebody to drive like 1.5 hours to St. Gallen to replace the paper bill. And it was like a 10 Swiss franc transaction. So we didn't care about that, right? Maybe we should have cared about it sooner in the process, about the economics behind it. But for us, it was important to build up a reputation and a brand and trust in the industry.
That's what is a famous quote from Y Combinator. Do things that don't scale at the beginning. That makes the whole difference.
Yeah, I agree. So that was super relevant for us to create a name and a brand in the industry, and get the trust of clients as well, because you need to be here for clients, and we were obsessed about clients. So we were really focusing always on clients. How can we improve the client experience and how can we get better? And of course, we were always very self-critical. You mentioned that at the beginning. And that's key as well, because the moment you're happy with the customer service, you can retire. It's not good anymore.
The Swiss branding of Bitcoin Suisse was very valuable in the beginning, but at some point became limiting. Why? And when did you start to realize, we went from being seen as super serious in this kind of Wild West industry to actually being limited because we have this Swiss branding?
The Swiss branding, it was not really limiting, let's say, our growth or the business potential, but a little bit our mindset. It's exactly this. Yeah, we're conservative. We need to do everything like super properly and so on. And still later on, you figured out it could have been done even better. So, I mean,
that's so Swiss.
Yeah, it sounds so
Everything
Swiss.
Needs to be perfect.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, you find out, and often we also hired like people. We thought they're like experts in a certain field, and we trusted them a lot. And later on, we figured out, I mean, they had no clue, right? So also that you can focus as much as you want on quality, but at one point you just need common sense again. And yeah, the hustler mindset, in my point of view, was luckily in most of the different growth phases it was around. But yeah, the Swissness itself, it has pros and cons. Let's put it that way.
The Swissness. I'm thinking about Revolut, right? Move fast and break things. Like you just go to these markets and you don't fucking care, and then you deal with the problem. Or I mean, the ultimate example is Binance, right?
100%.
They just don't give a fuck. They just go everywhere, and then oh shit, lawsuit. Oh, I have to go to do some jail. I'll do my jail done, right? But like,
it's a complete different mindset, but it worked out. I mean, crypto today would not be the same without Binance. So what they did for the crypto industry is amazing. Of course, the way how they did it, it's raises probably some questions, but still, for crypto adoption on a global scale, it's amazing, and they probably will reach 1 billion clients one day. So yeah, that's real adoption.
What makes Bitcoin Suisse special?
This business. No, no, I shouldn't say that. No, I think what makes us really truly special is the clients at the end of the day, because through clients we get direct access to the industry, and most of our clients, they're like crypto natives. So those are the builders in the ecosystems, the ones that have created the blockchains. It's even foundations themselves. And thanks to our clients, we have very early access to new narratives, to new business cases, to new projects, and so on. So we try to enable them in the early days and then grow together with them as an ecosystem.
Tell me about your clients. I want people to understand, who do you serve, who do you not serve?
So we serve primarily crypto native clients. That's foundations, founders, co-founders of protocols. It's developers, investors into those like protocols. But it's also the segment of TradFi players that are trying to find their way into the crypto space. So it's like family offices, external asset managers, and so on. So people or counterparties that need to be embraced, that need to be handholded on the journey towards crypto. We have a lot of private clients as well. The number of clients, of course, is dominated by private clients, high net worths and ultra highs. But we also have like an affluent segment of clients that are willing to put like 50K into crypto, 20K, something like that. But then they grow together with us as well as a firm. But we don't really do retail anymore. The type of clients that wake me up in the middle of the night to trade Bitcoin for 250 Swiss francs.
Why do you not do retail anymore?
Problem was really with retail. I mean, we grew up with retail, so the only thing that has been around when we started was retail. There were non-institutional clients, so it was a sad move. But the problem is of being in Switzerland is the cost to serve clients is extremely high. So we had to do KYC since day one. We have been regulated since 2014 for AML. So the onboarding in our world was similar to a bank. I mean, definitely now is, but also in the early days. So we asked for KYC, origin of funds, supporting documents, and all of that. While, I mean, in all the larger platforms, you open an account with an email address and a password, and you were able to trade Bitcoin back and forth like crazy. So the cost to serve them were too high. And we, over time, had to really focus on those clients where we can provide a benefit like long term and slowly start to get rid of retail clients. Yeah.
What's the end game for Bitcoin Suisse?
It's growing. It's still benefiting from this hype. I see every day a lot of problems. I'm a problem solver, so I try to solve them. I see a lot of opportunity. I try to capture them. So as long as we see there is a growth path on a global basis as well, we want to do that. We also look into like M&A potentially, like buying competitors and other firms. So we really want to grow in the industry. We want to be the benchmark for best-in-class service.
You're expanding globally. Have you ever thought about changing the name of the company?
We did many times. We did probably as many times as we were thinking about closing the company. So that has been one of the running gags internally. So on one side, it's very unique. Everybody knows Bitcoin, everybody knows Swiss. They can combine 1 + 1 and probably understand what we're doing. But it has also been limiting us on the other side because clients started to ask, hey, do you do something else than Bitcoin? Yes, we do. We're blockchain agnostic. Are you only serving Swiss clients? No, we don't. So we try to be global. So it has pros and cons, but I think by now the name is cool, it's unique, and it's recognizable. So we didn't want to change to something more generic like blockchain Swiss or whatever, crypto Swiss.
What's something that you hold on to, but know that you should let go of?
Wife. Bitcoin.
What's Andrej's biggest flaw?
That's a good question. I'm pretty, or I used to be pretty bad in like delegating stuff. So because I was always involved in a lot of different areas in the firm, I try to do stuff myself. And at one point, I mean, company is growing, you get more responsibilities, different, let's say, roles and titles. At one point, you need to delegate. And I had to learn this the hard way because at one point I was like really too involved in too many different topics, and it's like very stressful. So if you get home 10, 11 o'clock in the evening and you still need to handle like 20, 30, 40 emails, at one point, I mean, I'm talking about years here, it gets frustrating. So learning how to delegate, but also how to empower people was something that I learned on my entrepreneurial journey, and I hope that I improved. But yeah, never be happy with yourself.
What do you answer to people who say, never be happy with yourself? Like that sounds like a hard or depressing life.
You should love yourself for sure. You should be happy with yourself as a human being, with your family and surrounding. But if it's about doing a career, a steep career, you should not be happy. You should always, you should not be happy with the results, or you should always be able to like self-reflect and think about, hey, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? So you should not take yourself maybe too serious as part of that kind of journey. You should do self-reflection and take your learnings, because the average human being has some sort of basic intelligence, and you should try to avoid doing the same mistake twice. And if you're an entrepreneur or if you do investments, you will obviously do mistakes. You will also lose money. I mean, I made money, I lost money, but it's always comes back to your self-reflection. How much can you learn out of your mistakes and how can you improve long term? So that's why you should, maybe happy is the wrong word, but you should always at least be self-critical.
What's one thing that people should remember from today's conversation?
We touched a lot of different areas. So I think the realization of the opportunity that we're currently having in the year 2025 and probably the next like 5 years to create not just generational wealth potentially, but also to preserve wealth going forward, I think is one of the key messages. And I also wouldn't be too overwhelmed by, let's say, the long tail of all crypto projects and how can I get rich quick overnight. Generating wealth takes time, and it needs a lot of discipline. It needs hard work and smart work, of course, but it also needs self-reflection, as we touched it before. And I wouldn't look too far. I mean, look what is around. Try to understand Bitcoin. From my point of view, that's the single most important thing that somebody can do nowadays, is trying to understand Bitcoin. And if you then still think you need to go further down the rabbit hole, great, do it, right? But try to understand that and understand the importance, its role to potentially not just preserve your assets for the future, but to also make them grow is the most important thing that I would say.
Crypto is a get rich slow scheme and a get wrecked fast scheme. Or we can improve it after today's conversation and say not crypto, but Bitcoin is a get rich slow scheme and a get wrecked quick scheme.
I mean, I talk about Bitcoin a lot because for me, it's a little bit the proxy of the crypto industry. But I think it also separates a little bit because Bitcoin has turned out to be some sort of an own asset class in itself. While the rest of the crypto market, I would rather compare it with, let's say, tech stocks from the behavior on. I mean, the big blue chips, kind of large caps in the crypto space. And then you obviously have a lot of crap in it as well. We didn't talk much about that, and I'm happy for it. So don't try to focus too much on those kind of topics. But it's really the blue chips and Bitcoin that will move the needle going forward, and trying to understand that will certainly make a difference.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andrej, for doing that.
Thank you, Kevin.
That was very nice. I think it's the second Swiss person I have on the podcast. Good. Feels good.
I don't know what it says about you.
Actually, I have a very good do you say anecdote in English?
Yeah.
That I remember during this podcast.
Okay.
It's a great way to end. Never stop dreaming. In 2000, so I built my first company in 2015 until 18.
Yeah.
And then I had very bad health issues, so we had to sell the company. We didn't make a lot of money, but we had good cash. But I couldn't work anymore because of health issues.
Oh.
And I had this stack of cash. I was like, I need to invest this in the best, most promising asset class in the world, because I might never be able to work again.
Yeah.
That's how I found crypto, late 2018, right? I put everything early 19 in Bitcoin and ETH, which was a great kind of luck, also decision. But I lost most of it in COVID March crash on BitNext levered 2x, right?
Okay.
Whatever. When I got better, I was considering, do I start a new company or do I apply for some companies? And I knew this crypto thing, 2019, was the future. I was feeling like I need to learn more, but it's too intimidating and too weird. I'm not technical. I can't really do anything in space, let alone build a company. Maybe I need to go work for a company. So I was in Switzerland and I looked, what are the job openings in Switzerland? And there was a bunch of opening in Bitcoin Suisse and in this crypto finance, I think. And I applied to both.
Okay.
And I never had an answer. And today I'm interviewing the co-founder, CEO of Bitcoin Suisse. Never stop dreaming, guys.
You maybe could have done podcasts at Bitcoin Suisse, but I'm happy that you continued because it takes a lot of, you need to be brave, and it takes balls to actually start your own company and leave the comfort zone of some sort of a normal job. So I have the biggest respect for everybody that is doing that. I just yesterday talked to a friend of mine, actually working at Bitcoin Suisse, trying to create his own company and so on. And I mean, a friend of mine, I obviously embraced that. So I try to always empower people and tell them probably the biggest thing that you will regret is that you didn't start your own company in the future, that you didn't try it. And if it doesn't work out, I mean, you can always go back, right?
And the advice is always just start. But I need to do a business plan and I need to do the... No. Listen to these guys picking up the freaking phone at 3 a.m. for $300 transaction, or let's send someone to St. Gallen Bitcoin ATM for $10. This is the real doing and starting, and don't think about what's my greater plan. I mean, most people are not Elon Musk with a mega master plan, right? Just start and try to see if what you're doing is valuable and someone is willing to pay for it, even if it's not profitable, it doesn't matter. And just go for it, right?
And you need to also revise the business plan at one point and don't over-engineer it from day one, especially in crypto. So many things are changing, the whole ecosystem. There is things happening that you could not anticipate a few years back. So I think from that point on, just don't over-engineer it, start it, and be realistic as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It was an amazing conversation.
Thanks a lot.
As you probably know by now, I host some of the biggest names in Bitcoin and crypto on my podcast. But a lot of the best stuff never makes it on air. The Shift newsletter is where I share that raw behind-the-scene alpha, the insights, stories, and lessons straight from my guests that you won't hear anywhere else. If you want the real inside take on Bitcoin and crypto, join my newsletter, The Shift, in the description down below.